I think it's safe to say that summer is officially done and dusted. I think it officially ended last time I checked on the 22nd of September. We're now well into October and it feels like summer's done. It is cold. I now have to dress up warm in the house. You can feel it. It's raining, it's grey, it's gloomy. And I wouldn't blame you for thinking that because summer's over, we're now into fall or into autumn, that things are going to start slowing down where my plants are concerned. But in today's video, I'm going to correct that. I'm going to show you all of the plants that are growing, that are producing new leaves, that are doing some stuff. I'm not going to just pick a handful. I'm going to go through and discover all of the plants. I've seen a few when I was doing my watering that definitely I'm going to touch on and I'm going to come on to, but I'm sure as we go into this and we go through every single plant, we're going to discover some more that are really coming to their own, especially as the temperature is starting to fall. What is up, guys? My name is Lithius and welcome to Roots Ready. I must admit there's no plan to this video. As I said, there are a couple of plants that I know are growing and are doing well, and I'm just going to walk through all of my collection and just see what's growing. And when I'm talking about growing, I'm talking about in all sense of the words. So if there's a plant producing a new leaf, new flowers, anything, I'm going to bring them up to you guys and you can let me know what you think is worth. If I had to do a top 5, what do you think should be at the top of that list? So without any further ado, we're going to start right here in this corner. These are the plants that live on my east facing windowsill. So this is the rest of the collection that we will get to in a second, but this is part of that as well. So this is where I sort of tuck a few of my plants away. And on this side, I don't think loads of them are doing much. However, this plant, which is kind of a new plant to me in my collection, and I've forgotten the name of this plant. This is the Jatropha pedrogracia. This is one of the newer plants. I'm still getting to know this plant a little bit, but honestly, since I've got this plant, since I've purchased it, it's been a really steady grower. It has always produced a new leaf and it continues to produce little blooms. Now, there's only the one left on this stalk at the moment, but I'm sure this is going to fall off. They don't last very long, so I'm sure it's going to fall off any day now, and there will be another stalk coming out soon. So yeah, this plant is really a non-stop grower, always producing leaves. I think this plant is going to be a real handful when it comes to you know, finding somewhere for it to grow that I can display it properly. At the moment it's hidden, it's tucked away on this windowsill, but I'm hoping fingers crossed that in the summer next year, 2025, I can get this plant somewhere a bit more front and center so that you can see it a bit more. But apart from that, all of the other plants are doing okay. This is the avocado bonsai, the waterfall style. Not really much to report. The growth has slowed down on this, so it doesn't quite meet the criteria for today's video, but I'm sure I'll be touching on this plant again very soon. Right here next to my window is my string of hearts. This thing is just prolific, so I think come rain or shine, come cold or heat, this plant is always doing really well. You can see here that it's got some really long vines, and it's always producing flowers. And another thing, similarly to the Jatropha, this plant over here, it loses its flowers very quickly, so I'm always doing a cleanup job after this string of hearts. But I think here these are the only plants that are doing something, just those two in this section here. Now moving on to the largest section, this is where most of my plants are kept. I think there's quite a bit to talk about, actually, quite a bit, and we're going to start from down here and work our way up. So this right here is my begonia, and this plant is, I don't know what's happened, but just in the last 2 weeks or month or so, this plant has just been prolific, producing flowers non-stop. Again, these flowers don't last very long, so they come in and they drop. So I'm always trying to clean up after this plant at the moment. So definitely this is one I had to include in this video. You can also see that we have some new leaves that are coming in, like here. Do we have another one over on this side? Oh, yes, we do. Yes, we do. That's another leaf over there, and two of them down here as well. So yeah, this plant is definitely growing and it's doing some really good work. So staying on the ground level, this is what I thought was my Philodendron giganteum, but I saw somebody commented on one of my videos to say that this could potentially be a green Congo. And you know what? I think they might be right. It is giving me a lot of that green Congo vibe. And yeah, we'll keep an eye on this. But the reason why I'm talking about this plant is right here. Today I noticed that this plant is actually giving me a new leaf. You can see the little leaf tip starting to emerge out of the caterpillar just here. So this plant is about to put out another leaf. It is getting some of that morning light coming in. It's a little bit pulled further away than some of my other plants, but still this plant looks like it's enjoying life despite the relatively lower light levels. So coming up to sort of the second level of my plant collection, I have some plants that are slightly raised up. We have my Imperial Red, and the reason why I want to talk about this plant is because it has a couple of new leaves that are growing, that are coming in, and they're looking really, really good. So check this out. We have one leaf coming in over here. That's looking really nice, a little bit smaller than the others, and I think that's just because this plant isn't on a moss pole. Something that I need to think about doing, and also is probably going to help give it some stability as well. But we also have another leaf coming in here. This plant usually only gives me a leaf at a time, but this plant actually gave me 3 leaves at once. These are the 2, and there was another one down here. So just here was another leaf that was coming in, and I think I snapped it while I was trying to get to my plants over there when I was trying to do a bit of watering. So I snapped that off, but that was 3 leaves coming in at the same time. Some seriously impressive growth, and I think that's partly to do with the fact that this plant is now growing so close to the window, whereas before, I don't know if you recall, but it was living on my grow shelf, which was here. I had my grow tent here and it was growing on top, so it was only getting supplemental light from my grow lights over here. So the fact that this thing is getting some really good light now, I think is helping to supercharge its growth. Right next to my Imperial Red, we have, look at this, this is my King Anthurium. What a gorgeous, gorgeous leaf. Wow, I mean, wow. We have some really lovely growth on this plant. But the reason I'm going to talk about this one is because of this. This is the newest leaf that is coming in. Still very much an immature leaf. It's nowhere near ready. I do think though that this is going to be a slightly smaller leaf when you compare it to these leaves over here. Like this thing, you know, if you look at the petiole here, look how long this petiole is compared to that one. So this one here, which is the latest leaf, is about half the length of this one and this one that came before. So that remains to be seen how large this leaf is going to get. So I'm imagining it's probably going to get to something maybe around this size, which is slightly smaller than the larger ones, or maybe even this one over here, if you can see that beneath the canopy. So that's coming in. Can't wait to see what this leaf is going to look like. Before I even noticed that this leaf was coming out, it was sticking its head under here, right where my Hoya are, and it was trying to get access to that light. I've had to secure it to one of the other branches or one of the other petioles over here just to stop it doing that, and so I can contain that growth. I don't know if you recall, but there are 2 plants. So this plant, when I had it, it produced 2 growth points. So in effect, they're kind of like 2 plants growing here, if that makes any sense to you. But here is the other plant, and you can see that the other one is starting to produce a new leaf. So maybe in about a month or 2, about that, I imagine, we'll have another leaf to add to this one. Usually they start growing at the same time. For whatever reason, their schedules have been messed up. So we'll keep an eye on that. Coming to the back here where my Hoya are, well, this is where the majority of my Hoya live actually. There's a lot of growth happening here. This villosa, for example, is, my philosophy on this has changed. I used to try to contain this thing. I just can't seem to do it anymore. This thing has decided to wrap itself up in my in my Scindapsus plant. So this is the Scindapsus, it sort of trails down, but look at this. This has completely knotted and matted itself. I don't even know how high it goes now. If I come around the back here, a different angle, you can kind of see we have a couple of Hoya. I'm not sure which one this is, but this is probably the Fuawensis here. This is also trying to trail all the way up the Scindapsus as well. So there's a lot happening here. I have a feeling that when it comes to detangling this Velosa from the Scindapsus, it's going to be an absolute nightmare. So I'm not looking forward to that at all. But there are some other Hoya that are doing very, very similar things. So check this out. This is my Finlaysonii, and this thing, as well as this one, I forgot the name of this Hoya. This one right here. It's quite a common Hoya, I believe it is. I'm not sure exactly what type of Hoya it is, but if I can find out, I will put it on the screen. But both of them have started to grow out. And look at that, they're starting to vine around the cords. This is actually my Hoya Wilbur Grays, the Russian clone. You can see, again, it's growing out a very long tendril, which is coming all the way out here. And then this plant over here as well, that's growing. They're just exploding in growth. Very interestingly though, down here, this is my Hoya calistophylla, and this thing, I don't know, I've just been really unlucky to get this thing to grow. This is the leaf that I got it with, and it started to produce another one on this stem here, on this vine, and the leaves fell off, and that was twice now that that's happened. But today I noticed that we have another leaf trying to emerge just over here on this calistophylla, and I'm really hoping that this one takes hold, because honestly, this one has been quite tough for me to grow, and I'm not sure why that is, but we'll keep our fingers crossed. Let's put this plant back. To be fair, the reason why I was struggling to put this plant back is because this Mathilde, although I wasn't planning to talk about it, this thing is growing wild. It's growing all over the place. It's a really fast growing plant actually, so that's looking really, really good. Apart from that, in the Hoya section, I think that's mainly it. Oh, actually, there's something else that I just spotted way back here, and hopefully I can without damaging anything. Right here where the Fuawensis is, these are some flowers that are coming in, so that looks really, really cool. And we also have another set of flowers growing down here. I always like the way that these ones grow. It grows on like a long stem, long stalk kind of thing, and it just hangs and it looks really, really pretty. So I really like that. But as for the Hoya, I think that's everything here. Coming over to my other shelf, you can see that we have, there's not really much to talk about here. This is a hybrid between my Anthurium Forgetii and my Anthurium Magnificum Cross Regal. This was one of the few, one of a handful, maybe 2 or 3 that was able to ever get to grow. For some reason, whenever I try to use the Magnificum Cross Regal as the mother plant, it doesn't really work, and it's the only time it's actually worked, and I only got a handful of plants. But you can see here that we have a leaf that's about to emerge. Apart from that, not much to report. Right next to it is a Luxuriance Cross Forgetii plant that I got from the Eden Lab. It's been quite a slow grower, to be fair. You can see we only have a couple of leaves, and we have one that's yellowing, but nevertheless we also have a new leaf that is coming in as well, so that's looking really, really great. Oh, look at that, right next to the plant as well. This is another one of the hybrids that I grew myself from seed, from the Magnificum Cross Regal and the Forgetii, and look at that, we also have a new leaf coming in down here as well. So good news all around. Taking you down a level before we go up, we have a couple of new leaves coming in on this level. This is my Philodendron 69686, and it is producing some new leaves. This has been quite a good grower actually, in terms of putting out new leaves, and I've struggled to grow this plant in the past, but I'm glad to see that it's coming into its own now. Behind that, I believe we have a Philodendron Mammy. Is that what this is? I'm not too sure. But we can see we have a new leaf coming in here as well. And this one is just my Philodendron White Princess, I believe. You can see we have a new leaf coming in over here. So I think the Philodendron on a whole are growing quite nicely. This is when it starts to get a little bit more complicated because we're getting deeper into the collection. This is my Philodendron Gloriosum, and you can see that we have a new leaf that's coming in down here. It looks a little bit mangled and a little bit squashed, but yeah, this one is doing fine. This Begonia Sizamore though, this thing has given me some flowers, and I think I'm a little bit too late to the party because unfortunately they are already starting to fall off. Really unfortunate, but really, really pretty pink flowers on this one actually. Very, very nice. Oh, we have quite a few actually, but I think I've missed it by a few days and they're starting to fall off already. What a shame. All right, so coming over to my grow tent, I think we have quite a few plants that are growing and doing some stuff. Over here we have a Hoya. I've forgotten the name of this one, but this has been a real struggle plant, and I'm glad to see that we have a leaf on this one. I've completely forgotten the name. Is the Hoya that shingles? It grows and it sort of grows flat. It's quite an interesting one. I've completely forgotten the name, but for whatever reason it lost all its leaves, and I'm glad to see that it's got one leaf coming back as well. We have a propagation bag over here with some leaves that are growing in. I think this is another philodendron mame. I've got so many philodendron mame. I think I need to start giving them away. honestly. We have some anthurium seedlings in here. I'm not sure if it's supposed to be growing like that. You can see this one is quite spotted, not sure why. And we have some white leaves, check that out. So that's fully variegated, and not just the one. On the other side we have another one that is fully variegated. So that's really, really cool to see. Whether or not these plants, these seedlings, are even going to survive, that remains to be seen. So we'll just put that back on there, keep that humidity level nice and high. I spoke about the Anthurium Delta Force in a recent video, but you can see, look at this leaf. This is the leaf that I spoke to you guys about that was coming in, and it was only just a little bud. But look at that, it's doing so well. I think this is the one. This is the one I think I showed you on the video that was coming in, that was new, and this is the one that comes after. Look at that leaf shape. I think it's definitely becoming a bit more mature now and giving me that classic Delta Force vibe. I also spoke about this one, which is my Anthurium Wendy. Look at that, still looking good. Leaf is still hardening off. I think I may have to repot this plant soon, just because it's looking a bit weak. As you can see, look at that stem. Stem is growing quite long, and I know this plant tends to droop down, but I want to maybe bury it a little bit more just to get the roots a bit more strength, a bit more established as well. What do we have here? I don't think I've really spoken about this Anthurium much actually. It's quite a cute Anthurium. This is a hybrid between a Forgetii and a Papillaminium that I've had for a little while. And it was kind of a slow grower because I've had this thing maybe a year, maybe a bit more. Look at the iridescence on that. It's lovely. But it's been quite slow. It's quite a slow grower. And I've put it into some soil for the first time, I think at the start of this year. And it's finally starting to grow because we have some new leaves and it's starting to size up nicely as well. So that's really, really good. Coming to the bottom shelf of the grow tent, not really much to report, I'm afraid, in terms of new growth. However, we have the Cutacuens, Anthurium Cutacuens, with a new leaf which is growing in a really odd way, kind of upside down. Hopefully that straightens itself out. I am thinking about chopping this thing down because it's growing quite tall, and instead of having just a one vine, kind of have a Cutacuens bush, if that makes sense to you. That's kind of what I think I'm going to go for. I think it's going to look a lot more, just a lot nicer, a lot more interesting as well. So that's a task for the future Lithius. So hopefully that gets done sooner rather than later. So finally, we have the top shelf up here. This is like the exclusive club, the VIP section. And we have a lot happening over here. This is my mutated Anthurium Forgetii. It's super bumpy. Look at that. Look at the texture on those leaves. So I made sure to keep a hold of this one and see how large I can grow this thing and how unique I can get it to become. Look at that. The leaves are also quite dark as well. We have a couple of new leaves. This was a new leaf. It's kind of now a bit more established. And I think this one over here was a new leaf as well. So you can see how lovely that looks. I've actually repotted this plant. Did a bit of an experiment with tree fern fiber to see how my plants respond to it. This is the first plant that I've moved over into that, and I can tell you already it's looking good. It's looking good, but we'll save that for another video where I can give you a full background of tree fern fiber and my experience with it. This plant is of course the Philodendron Spiritus Sancti. How regal is that? If you look back here, we have a new leaf. Check that out, coming in nicely, still unfurling, So give that a couple of weeks and that thing is gonna look incredible. Hopefully as lovely as this one over here. Look at that. That is lovely. Can't wait to see what that leaf looks like. And I need to again pull my finger out and get this bad boy on a moss pole, because honestly, I think it can really level this plant up in a big way. So I definitely need to do that. So this is my Heronia Plesa. This plant, hopefully I can take it out of here without damaging the plant or myself in the process. But check this out. I was so excited when this plant produced one flower for me. And since then, this thing has been absolutely unstoppable. We have 2 flowers that are open. Another one here that's about to come, it's still emerging. We have one here. Oh, this is another one that's open, probably getting ready to close and fall off. Another one here, and lots of other little bulbs. This thing, I don't know what happened, what change happened, but this thing has absolutely exploded in growth. We'll put this aside for now because I wanted to show you the other Heronia Plesa that I have in my collection. This one right here. And honestly, this is the complete opposite. This thing is slow growing, does nothing, hardly produces any growth. This is probably the newest piece of growth that is produced. And I've had them at the same time, and they probably both started about the same size as well. So I'm not sure what's going on with this one. Super slow grower. So check this out. This is the greenhouse. This is my windowsill greenhouse from IKEA. And I've had to open this thing up. Before, I had these plants growing in that enclosed environment, super high humidity. I've had to do it because this plant here, and I've forgotten the name of this plant, it's completely slipped my mind. But look at this, it's grown outside of the terrarium. Absolutely crazy, but look at the colors on that though. Oh, absolutely gorgeous. But it's not the only one though, because we have this orchid over here, and again I've forgotten the name of this orchid. I don't think I've ever known the name of this orchid actually, but this one is also growing outside of the terrarium. Another orchid over here that's growing outside of the terrarium. It's just ridiculous. All of the plants are just exploding in growth. Look, all of them. So I've had to open it up. It is drying out a lot quicker, but it's fine. It just means I just have to water it, be on top of that a lot more, and just let the plants be. Behind it we have my dumb cane over here. This thing is an absolute beast. I have it on a shelving unit, so it's not as tall as the ceiling, but it's still absolutely gigantic and impressive. When you come around the back here, it's obviously a little bit thinner just because it doesn't get as much light here, but that doesn't stop it from growing some really lovely, impressive big leaves. And it continues to do so because we have a number of leaves that are unfurling. We have another one back there. So this one just opened up, so that's looking really great. This plant is really top heavy though. I've had to put some rocks I've had to put some rocks in the pot just to stop it from falling over, because that could be quite traumatic. So I think that's it. I've probably undoubtedly missed a plant or two, but I've just got so many, and so many of them are kind of tucked away in little corners that, yeah, it's kind of impossible to see all the plants all at once and know what's happening, which is really nice for me to actually do this exercise and do it with you guys, so you can kind of see how I come across my plants and how I kind of keep that motivation, that excitement about my plants as well. I know it can be tough having a number of plants to care for, and I've had the question before, you know, how do you do it? How do you maintain it? How do you keep the energy that you have for these plants? And that's kind of it as well. You know, the fact that I have this many means that every now and then I get to rediscover a plant. You know, I'll be watering a plant and I realize, oh my days, it's got a new leaf. Oh my goodness, it's got flowers. It's doing this new thing. It's growing in this new way. And that helps to just keep that motivation going as well. So hopefully you will get able to get a bit of an insight into that, into how I rediscover my plants. And hopefully that was as exciting for you as it was for me to see what's happening, especially during the time of year when you kind of expect your plants to start to settle down for the winter and take a bit more time and grow a bit more slowly. It was nice to see that so many, a lot more than I expected, are doing well and growing and producing new leaves and new growth. That just means that I can continue to enjoy my plants deep into the winter months, and as we continue on this journey through fall and autumn. But yes, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know which plant that you were most excited to see. I imagine it was a bit of a challenge to see what was going on, especially down here where the plants are a lot more dense and a lot harder to get to. But hopefully we're able to see what these plants are doing and we're able to share in that journey with me. Let me know in the comments below what plants you were most impressed with, and also if you have some plants that are doing really well or unsurprisingly well in this new season, let me know in the comments as well. I'd love to discuss it there. But that's it. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, keep planting.